Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Rachel. I'm a speech language pathologist turned homeschool mom to two boys, a rising second grader and a rising fourth grader. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the history that we used for their first and third grade years. It was History Quest. History Quest is a secular curriculum and it's a full year curriculum. For this we did was ancient times. They also have like middle times and modern times as well. We did ancient times, and these are the two books. This is the reader and this is the study guide that kind of gives you the layout of how your weeks are going to look. Let me talk to you about the reader first of all, because the reader is where you're going to be doing a lot of your reading. The reader has your chapters from prehistory to the 8th century CE. So you start with Paleolithic times, go to Neolithic times, and all the way up to the Byzantine Empire. And this is not done in chronological order. You do kind of jump around a bit in time. For example, we'll talk about Egypt, and then you'll jump to India, and then you'll jump to the Andes civilization, and then you'll jump back to the Roman Empire. It doesn't go in order chronologically through history, but it's kind of nice because you get to go throughout history in a story format. This curriculum discusses 26 civilizations that happened throughout the ancient times, and it also has an introduction chapter and a conclusion chapter, which wraps those civilizations up pretty nicely. Nice little package in a bow. Every chapter civilization starts with talking about the history of that civilization in more of a story format. So it talks about important people, important events through history, and it makes it in a story format so it's more engaging for the children to retain the information. So that's the first part of every chapter. It has the historical information, and then the rest of the chapter, it's called a history hop. And this is an actual story where you pretend you are magically taken back in time and you get to meet people, or in some cases, multiple people from that civilization, and those people walk you through what kind of a day in their life is like. For example, you might be meeting a military leader, or you might be meeting a city planner, or you just might be meeting a worker who's making pottery or doing some iron work. But you get to hop back in time, and it's a story, and you get to experience what life would have been like for those people in that time. Now, looking at this reader, you can tell it's a big chunky one, and the writing is not small. It does have some black and white illustrations in every chapter, but basically you're reading this book every single day for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, just to keep going through the book. So you have to stay consistent with it, and it's just it's like 5 to 10 minutes each day, so a little bit at a time. Now, this is the reader. I also had a study guide, so let me talk to you about the study guide. The study guide for History Quest Early Times is where you're going to find kind of your schedule, but you don't have to stick to that schedule. It does have what they recommend you do each day, but you don't have to do all of it. There's art activities, there's map activities, there's questions you can answer, Socratic questions you can ask for each chapter, there's storytelling you can do. This has like the meat for the teacher to give to the student. I did not stick to this to a T, but I do think it's a great resource to have if you want to add in an art activity, if you want to do the maps, if you want to do the copy work. This is where you're going to find all that information for each of the 26 civilization chapters. You'll see that in the back is where all the pull-out pages are for the study guide. Let me show you what some of those pull-out pages look like. So these pull-out pages are going to be the foundation for your history notebook and your history timeline. So this is a nice little front cover page you can have for your student. And here is the history travel log that you'll be filling out for each of your history hops. So you get to, I traveled to, the child writes the name, and then for the map, I would have them put a star sticker where on the map that we traveled to. And again, this timeline shows how far we're jumping back in time. And down here, if your child is so inclined to be an artist, they can draw an illustration of what something they saw in that civilization. Then on the back of your history travel log is during my travels to, and whatever civilization you traveled to, the child can write I met, I saw, I learned, or you can erase those and they can just write whatever they think is most important about the civilization you learned. For my first grader, he filled out this section by himself with obviously me helping him write which civilization we were traveling to, but then I was his scribe. But my third grader, he wrote that independently. So you can definitely accommodate different age groups depending on their needs. Because this is an elementary school curriculum, so I utilized it with my first and third grader, I thought, pretty successfully. But definitely older children, this would be perfect for as well, all the way up to 6th grade. Also in the study guide were some maps. So there's maps 1 all the way up to map 13. I believe it was 13. So maps aren't used for every civilization, but they are used for 13 of the civilizations. Each map is a little different, but it tells you in the study guide what you will be filling out for each of these maps. To hold all of the maps and the history timelines and also the copywork, I chose for my kids to do copywork that is from the study guide. So there's copywork in the study guide that they can copy on printed paper. But for example, they have their own binders. This is one of my kiddos, the Roman Empire. So he had to fill this out, his travel log. And then this was the map. He had to fill out the map. And then also this was the copywork that he had to do. So you're seeing there's a lot of components that make up History Quest, and it's, I thought, a pretty robust curriculum, but I'm not finished yet. So those history hops that I was telling you about also have illustrations that go with them. So if for each of the history hops, the napper, this was the person we met. For Neolithic stone tool makers or who we met. So they have all these pages of illustrations that I had them put in their history school nest notebooks. So this is their history timeline notebook. This was one of my kiddos. I'll just again give you kind of a flash of what it looked like. So going back in time, and then we're getting into more deeper into history. These history timeline notebooks are great because we're not going to just use them this year. We're going to move on to middle times and modern times, and they have plenty of pages to continue to fill out along the way. There are also some other pages in the study guide, like some alphabet and some hieroglyphics, and then some other like art projects. We didn't use these, but they're there available in the study guide for your liking if you choose to use them. So that's kind of an overview of History Quest. Now let me tell you my thoughts on it. I mentioned this earlier. I think it's a very robust curriculum. I like that it is secular. We're seeing a lot of representation. All the continents, other than obviously Antarctica and Australia, are represented in this curriculum pretty well. And so it wasn't like heavily like European, like learning only about Europe or only about Mesopotamia. It covered a lot of land and cultures and civilizations, which I really appreciated. I loved the story format of it. If history is done in a story format, it's easier for not only adults to retain it, but children as well. That's one reason why historical fiction for readers, for adult readers, is so popular, because it's a story. It like takes you to that time and really immerses yourself in that history. Another thing I appreciated about this curriculum, because it took you through so many cultures, it nicely represented men and women, religion, governments, and just civilizations as they arose. Patterns formed, and it talked, I think, pretty respectfully about war and how war was very rampant in ancient times, but it did it in a respectful way that for children it was digestible. So history has a lot of hard topics, but even our kids need to think about those hard topics in a respectful manner. And I think that this curriculum did that very well, because my kids, we had some great conversations about war and about just the work of people and jobs, and how children definitely had a harder time in the ancient times. A lot more was expected of them, and it was a good conversation for the boys to understand that they have a pretty easy life, and they need to be thankful and respectful of their blessings, being born where we are and when we are. The last thing I'm going to talk about for this curriculum is something that I didn't use in this curriculum, because we were just doing the readers for the 26 chapters. There is little side quests you can do. There's 4 different side quests, and again, I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. Hygge, history, literature. I'm going to read what this says right here and then talk to you about the 4 different literature recommendations they have. So there are 4 units in this study guide that employ the Danish concept of hygge, I'm saying that wrong, a joyful mix of coziness, togetherness, and a general feeling of well-being, where enjoyment of classic literature is your only assignment for the week. Okay, so that's a little bit of that blurb. So there's literature recommendations for Gilgamesh, also for the civilization of Sumer, Greek mythology, the Ramayana, the ancient Indian epic, and Hindu mythology, and Chinese mythology. And again, if I'm pronouncing any of those wrong, I probably am. It's all good. But we didn't do any of these. Call them little side quest adventures where you can just read literature for that week. That's awesome. Because like I said, it's only 26 units with an introduction and a conclusion, so 28. So 29, 30, 31, 32. So there could be 32 weeks if you're like doing a chapter every single week, plus the intro, conclusion, and then the Hygge history. So you guys, that is my review of this curriculum. I thought it was a great history. We're gonna continue on with this curriculum for middle time, so obviously I enjoyed it quite a bit. In the past, we've used Beautiful Feet books and Sunlight curriculum for history, and obviously since I changed, I wasn't quite happy with those curriculum choices, and since I'm staying with this one, hopefully it'll continue to impress me for next year. But with that being said, guys, let me know any questions about this curriculum you have in the comment section. Let me know if you've used this curriculum. Yeah, let me know. Just say hi in the comments as well. And with that being said, I hope wherever you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for watching. Bye.